What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to Skull Network. My name is Nick, and welcome back to the weekly NFL Picks segment on the channel. This marks week number 2 of the 2021 NFL season, and let's all agree that week 1 provided quite a few surprises to kick off the season. After the first week, I am 9-7, so I think for a week that you don't really know what to expect from a lot of teams, I don't think that's terrible. I've seen a lot of other people on social media get roughly about the same, if not worse, so I think everyone does about this bad to start things off. But week 2 has plenty of great matchups, so let's not waste any more time. Let's get right into the picks. Kicking things off, we have Thursday Night Football between the Washington Football Team and the New York Giants, and this is one of those games that seemed a little easier before Ryan Fitzpatrick went down. Now that he's down and Taylor Heinicke will be in the game starting for the next few weeks for the Washington Football Team, it might be a little closer, but you do have to remember how the Giants played against a very good Broncos defense last week, and Washington's defense is arguably better. Yes, Chase Young didn't really have much of an effect last week, but I don't think that's going to be a common theme. It also looked like Saquon was underutilized. I would expect that to, start ramping up a little bit here, but overall, the Giants still are relatively weak offense, and I do just like Washington a little bit more in this one, so I will be taking the Washington Football Team. Moving on to the Sunday slate of games, we have the Raiders versus the Steelers. Now, both of these teams pulled off great comeback wins in both of their games week 1. The Steelers was a little bit more impressive to me because Buffalo is just such a strong team, especially on defense. But don't get me wrong, I'm impressed with what the Raiders did, although it did take them a little longer in their game to really put on a show. I think this one could be a little closer than some people think, but I do think the Steelers are a top contender in the AFC, especially after the show they put on last week. And I think they start off 2-0 here. I'm going to be picking the Pittsburgh Steelers. Next, we have the surprise team from last week, New Orleans and the Carolina Panthers. Christian McCaffrey had a great comeback, put up some decent points in fantasy, didn't score. Sam Darnold looked very solid against his former team, but as we know, Jameis Winston absolutely went off against Green Bay. Now, Green Bay's defense didn't play super well, but, Carolina doesn't have a super great defense in and of itself. And I do think that after that performance, as long as Jameis Winston can keep that up, the Saints are going to be a playoff team. I do like Carolina, just a little bit. I don't like him as much in this one, so I'm going to be going with New Orleans. Next, we have the Texans and the Browns. Now, the Texans were probably the biggest surprise last week because no one expected them to really win any game at all this season. And the Browns, as we know, they were able to keep up with Kansas City and almost pulled it off again, just like last year in the divisional round. And I don't think this one's going to be particularly close. I think Tyrod Taylor played very well, utilized Brandon Cooks very well, but the Texans still just aren't that strong of a roster, and especially going against a powerhouse like Cleveland, I don't think this one is going to be too difficult for Baker Mayfield and the Browns. I think Cleveland takes this one. Now we're moving on to the battle of the first-round rookie quarterbacks with the New England Patriots and the New York Jets. I don't really have a lot to say on this one. The Jets didn't impress me too much last week, and the Patriots, they were almost able to pull it off against a very solid Dolphins defense, obviously coming up short, but this one is kind of a toss-up for me. I honestly really don't care about this game, but for the sake of my record, I do think that the New England Patriots will come out on this one very slightly. Next, we have the Cincinnati Bengals and the Bears. Now, as a Vikings fan, I know very well that the Bengals came out and wanted to kick some ass week 1, and that's kind of what they basically did. The Bears, on the other hand, well, Andy Dalton already got benched and it was only a few quarters of play. Now, I don't know at the time I'm recording this if Justin Fields is playing, but I don't necessarily think it matters because the Bengals, at least from what I saw last week personally, have a very solid, form on offense. Joe Mixon looked like he was back. Jamar Chase looks like he's the real deal. They have weapons everywhere. Joe Burrow doesn't look like he lost a step, and the Chicago defense kind of got shredded up by Matt Stafford. So as much as I don't want this to be somewhat biased, I mean, obviously I don't like the Bears very much, but I do genuinely think that Cincinnati's the better team, and I do think that they will win. Up next, we have the Rams and the Colts. The Rams, they look absolutely awesome. Week 1, they came out, put on a show. The Colts played relatively well last week. They played a very strong Seattle team, so it was obviously a tough test. This one's not going to be much easier. I think that this has a similar game script going here. I do think the Rams are going to come out on top here. Matt Stafford and that entire Rams offense and that entire roster as a whole is just far too strong, and until they really play someone notable, I can't really vote against them. I'm picking the Rams. Next up, we have the 49ers and the Eagles. Now, the 49ers, they did what I expected them to, even though they almost lost to Detroit towards the end there. And then the Eagles, Jalen Hurts really came out, albeit against a terrible defense, but him and Devonta Smith really seemed to already have a connection, and it was only week 1. This game, I think, could be one of the closest of the entire week, and I honestly don't know who I'm leaning towards. I think I might have to flip a coin on this one. 49ers will be heads, and the Eagles will be tails. Hey Google, flip a coin.
You got heads.
It looks like my pick this week will be the San Francisco 49ers. Up next, we have the Bills and the Dolphins. As I said before, Dolphins squeaked one out against the New England Patriots. And the Bills, while they did drop a game, it was against a clearly very good Steelers team, especially Steelers defense. And they're going up against another good defense this week in the Dolphins. But there's just no bone in my body that believes that the Bills can start off 0-2. I know that's not really a great metric to go off of, but Josh Allen is just far too talented, and that Bills defense is far too strong. Don't get me wrong, I do like the Dolphins. I think they can end up in the playoffs here at the end of the season, but I will be going with the Buffalo Bills. Next, we have the Broncos and the Jacksonville Jaguars. Trevor Lawrence had a pretty all-right debut last week, but I've seen around quite a bit that Urban Meyer really does not seem like the guy. I honestly didn't get to watch much of the game, but when you lose to the Texans, it is, how do I say this? It's kind of embarrassing. And like I said last week, the Broncos have one of the strongest rosters in the NFL, one of the best defenses in the NFL, and it really showed. They took care of business pretty easily over in New York, or against New York, and I don't think they have much trouble here. I don't think Trevor Lawrence is going to struggle, but I just think Denver is way too strong. I'll be picking the Broncos. Moving on to the afternoon games, we have the Minnesota Vikings and the Arizona Cardinals. Now, I fully understand. The Cardinals look like the best team in football last week. Kyler Murray, 5 total touchdowns. Chandler Jones, 5 sacks and 2 forced fumbles. Probably 2 MVP frontrunners, 1 and 2 right there after 1 week. And the Vikings, well, we lost to the Bengals. I understand. It doesn't look good. The Vikings don't necessarily have a shot if they played like last week, but you can't expect another 10 penalties in one half, and you have to only expect that the defense, now that they have a week together under their belt, might play better? Oh, God. Kyler Murray's probably going to shred this defense, but as a homer, I understand that we'll more than likely lose, but I will be picking the Vikings because, well, I love them. Up next, we have the Falcons and the Buccaneers. I do not even feel the need to talk about this one. Falcons absolutely laid an egg last week, and the Buccaneers, while it was a close game, they played against what looks to be a very talented Dallas team. Taking no more time, Buccaneers will be taking this one. Up next, we have the Chargers and the Cowboys, and as I just said, the Cowboys look to be absolutely amazing, at least in my eyes. Zeke, yes, underperformed, but Amari Cooper looks like that guy. Dak has not missed a step. Defense, there's still some question marks there, but the Chargers, they were able to pull it out against Washington. Looked a little bleak there for a moment. Justin Herbert and Austin Eckler and those guys did underperform a little bit, but I do still like the overall roster of the Chargers. This is another one of those games where it is really a toss-up, but this earlier in the season, based off what I've seen so far, I do like Dallas just a little bit more. Up next is the Titans and the Seahawks. As we know, the Titans were one of the biggest disappointments of week 1. Derrick Henry didn't really get anything going. Ryan Tannehill, I regret starting him in any fantasy league. And the Seahawks came out firing. Russell Wilson looked like the old Russ. He was cooking, and honestly, this is one of those games where you don't expect Tennessee to play that bad again, but I just don't think they're going to play well enough to be able to beat what looks to be a very strong Seattle team. I think that Tennessee will turn it around this week, but I don't think it's going to be enough to beat Seattle. Up next, we have the Chiefs and the Ravens, obviously 2 of the top teams in the AFC. Ravens lost a heartbreaker, and the Chiefs, man, they were able to pull it out against a team that looked like was clearly better than them in the Cleveland Browns, but Patrick Mahomes, he pulled off Patrick Mahomes things, made no mistakes, and really utilized everything that he has to work with and pulled it out. And honestly, I do like both teams in this game, but like I said in week 1 picks, Kansas City, they are far too strong. Yes, they have weaknesses, and Cleveland was able to exploit those a little bit here and there, but I just don't think Baltimore really has the ability to work with Patrick Mahomes, and I do think that Kansas City will take this one. And ending things off, we have Monday Night Football against 2 NFC North teams, which not the greatest matchup that you want to see for your primetime game. I'm talking about the Packers and the Lions, and man, Aaron Rodgers, his passer rating last week was worse than if you were to take the ball and spike it every single play. And the Lions, it looks like Dan Campbell has those guys figured out. Jeff Okudah, unfortunately, out for the season. Obviously, you hope his recovery goes well. And the roster looks a little better than we expected, but I mean, they're still the Lions, and you can't expect Aaron Rodgers to do that 2 weeks in a row, right? Right? I honestly don't think that it will happen 2 weeks in a row. I honestly think this could go either way. The Lions always play the Packers very close, regardless of how terrible they are from year to year. But I do think that the Packers will have a bit of a bounce back weekend, but it won't be anything too crazy, I don't think. I will be taking Green Bay to finish off the week. And that's going to wrap up week 2 picks, everyone. If you thought any of these picks were great, let me know. Tell me your picks in the comments down below. Or if you have the opposite feelings, also let me know down in the comments below. Love these sort of conversations. But if you guys are new to the channel, make sure you hit the button down below to subscribe. And if you enjoyed the video, make sure you give it a like as well. If you want to share this video with anyone, you can do that with anyone on any platform. And if it's a crack dealer on the corner, that's your guys' best option. You guys already know. My name's Nick. I'll see you guys all in the next video. Adios.